Hello, everyone. Matthew Schwab here with Matthew Schwab Speaks with another episode of Matthew Schwab Listens. Today, I'm talking to Dr. Jason Day of Trinity Life Center in Holly Springs. Welcome, Dr. Jason.
My man, honored to be here with you. As always, love hanging out with you, and I love having this conversation.
Thank you. So, Dr. Jason is my chiropractor, and I feel so much better since going to Trinity Life Center for the past 18 months or so. I so I wanted him to share a bit about what and why he does.
Yeah, sure. No, happy and honored. And you know what? Two questions might pop up into the listener's mind, even in your first sentence of first off, like, how is a chiropractor helping you or anybody? And why on earth would you go somewhere for 18 months? Are they that entertaining? Or are they actually helping? And I'll unpack those. So, what chiropractic does, what we do specifically in our office, we're obsessed with how that brain and nervous system is communicating with the body. It's not about the bone. It's not about the joint. We do help people with aches and pains, but it's really about how is that brain and nervous system communicating, not just with the muscles, but what controls your energy, your emotions, your organs, your sleep, your hormones, your digestion, everything. So when we get that nervous system in a healing, calm, connected mode, really good stuff happens. And life is stressful. There's physical stressors, there's emotional stressors, there's chemical stressors, and not just on teens and young adults and elderly people, it's on babies too. We actually have had in the last 2 weeks probably 5 newborns come into our practice.
Wow.
Why? Brain and nervous system too. And once you get that back, just like any other thing that fills your soul and fills your body, and eating good foods and exercising and surrounding yourself with positive people, you just don't want to leave. And it's not because of an addiction. You're not addicted to chiropractic care. You're feeling better because you are better.
Yes. And and can you tell us about Trinity Life Center, like what it is and why did you start Trinity Life Center?
So I actually I graduated chiropractic school. Oh, I'm gonna make myself feel old here in 2005. So that was 18 years ago. And immediately after school, my wife and I got married and we moved off to Europe. I had a great job opportunity to practice in the Netherlands near Amsterdam and thoroughly enjoyed that. That practice doubled while we were there. Left with nothing but gratitude and success in our hearts. But we handpicked North Carolina. I grew up in the Southeast in Alabama and Louisiana. My wife's from Florida. And we knew we'd start somewhere in the Southeast because people in the South are nicer. I hope your audience from the North doesn't get mad. But no, it was our home. It was our family. Our family, we didn't live in North Carolina, but we thought this would be the most amazing place. And we were right. And we got to meet some amazingly cool people. But I always had a passion and a heart for serving pediatrics and pregnancy because they have brains and nervous systems too. And sadly, the statistics facing our children and teenagers is tough. Like there's lots of issues like anxiety and autism and ADHD, sensory challenges, weak immune systems. So we started Trinity Life Center. And sometimes people will call here and they're like, is this a church? I'm like, no, it's not a church. We do have our background in faith, but to me, there is a Trinity when it comes to our health. And again, we could talk about faith and that type of thing too, but like what makes the Trinity symbol is three distinct parts that are inseparable. And when it comes to our health, there's our physical health, there's our body. That's what we do with our body, our physical health. There's our chemical health, which is hormones and diet, nutrition, what we put in our bodies. And then there's our emotional, spiritual health. So we thought we want to work on all three of those things, which is controlled by the one thing that's the brain and the nervous system. So that was the genesis of Trinity Life Center. But we want it to be an amazing place for families come to heal. Not just babies, not just pregnant mamas, but people, no matter the challenge, the diagnosis or prognosis, when you have a brain and nervous system that's healthier, that's what Trinity Life Center is all about, is helping people, whole people. We're not just chasing symptoms, we're helping people and change their lives. So that's what Trinity Life Center is all about.
That's amazing. You guys are doing great work.
Thank you.
And so how long have you done chiropractic?
Oh, so, yeah, how long have we been here? We've been here for 12 years, believe it or not, this fall. And it just yesterday we were rebuilding out this place. And a little secret, I haven't really told anybody online. We're radically changing the aesthetics of this place and doing a complete overhaul in a couple of weeks. So it'll be a surprise to everybody else. But Matthew, you get an inside scoop. But no, we're constantly want to create an amazing healing place that we're honored to be in. We want this to be, we call it your third place. Like we all have our home, we all have our work or our church, but we need that extra place of community, and that's what we're building here over the last 12 years.
That's amazing. That's kind of cool about the whole rebranding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's and so what inspired you to pursue this field of work?
So growing up, I was always told I would be a doctor. Just I did well in school, and people thought I was smart in that regard. So I knew I wanted to help people in some kind of healthcare fashion. And a little side fact about me: I actually have 5 children. I have 5 boys from the age of 6 to 15. I knew I wanted a big family. I grew up with hundreds of cousins, and I started looking at healthcare. And I'm not against it. Like, thank God for medicine and surgery when you need
Yes,
it. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and the more I looked at people that were doing that, basically they had their head down, working their behinds off till about age 35, they would come up for air. And then maybe, just maybe, they could start a private practice and control their hours a little bit. But basically, they were just slaves to a career, a very noble career. And I
yes,
always knew, you know what, as amazing as chiropractic or an orthopedic surgeon or a lawyer or anything you want to be, it shouldn't be at the expense of your family. And even though I didn't have my boys yet or have my wife yet, I knew I wanted to be able to pour into them consistently. So I like the idea of being able to control my business. So that kind of got me in the direction of chiropractic. But once I started to learn the philosophy that actually health comes from us through a nervous system that's working well, through our nutrition, through our exercise, through our emotional health, not just through a pill, not just through a supplement or somebody trying to fix me, cut me, slice me, dice me. It's like, no, how do we unlock that in everybody? So that interest became a passion. And that's how it built from there, is it just a desire to help people. And when I started peeling back the layers, the most fundamental thing to health is a brain and nervous system that's working for you, not against you. So
definitely.
it's a job, it's a calling, and we love it. And that's how I got into it.
That's really fascinating. So, what do you like to what do you like to do for fun with and without your kids?
Oh, with and without the kids. So, about a year ago, or a little bit more than a year ago, my wife and I decided we loved our life. We're happy with our home, but we decided that God had something different for us or bigger for us, and we set on to the adventure of moving out to the country. And a handful of nothing short of miracles happened, and we landed on this ginormous homestead farm out in Broadway, North Carolina. So I jokingly say I do chiropractic as a side gig. I'm a professional amateur farmer, right? I don't know what I'm doing, but I love spending time in nature. My absolute favorite thing to do on the farm is throwing this thing called a rucksack, and that's my fitness. A rucksack is a weighted backpack. I put about 30 pounds in there, and I just walk around our property. And I get 45-minute walks, hour-long walks. It's a pretty big space. We're blessed in that.
Oh
But
yeah.
through the woods, by the river, swimming in our pond, playing with our chickens, like all things nature, farm related. And of course, the boys are always there. It's a boy's dream out there. But you know what? The most happy person on our farm is my wife. She's the queen of us all. So just honestly, like, I'm not a type of person that always has to be at the biggest party surrounded by 50 people. I love the hundreds and hundreds of people I get to serve here every single week. But man, there's something magical about just unplugging and plugging into your family, plugging into nature, plugging into God. And I'm a simple man in that regard. So I love amazing foods and phenomenal dinners, cooking dinners, going out to dinners. But everything else is pretty much on the farm, living and loving out loud in God's nature.
I love living in North Carolina. I've been here for my entire life. That's almost 26 years of it. In fact, about 3 months ago, my dad and I took a trip because part of that trip was part of a Christmas present that I got from my parents last year because I've been at the time it was like relatively new, but it's an obsession I've been having for 2 years and counting. The colony of Roanoke, and so my last year's Christmas present was an illustrated book, a novel, The Search of the Lost Colony, and a trip to the Lost Colony itself. So 3 months ago, my dad and I went there to see the play and see the Earthen Fort, the festival garden, the festival stuff over there, and that was my first time. there and first time watching the play.
Yeah. I love that, man. And I'll tell you what, that's a great tip for your audience. One of the greatest gifts you can give a child, an adult, or a parent is an experience. Let's be honest, we all have enough stuff.
True. Yes,
Battery plugging in, it's all just going to get sold in a garage sale 5 years from now anyway. But if you create an experience, you'll be telling your children about that time you went to Roanoke. You'll be telling, like, it's something you remember because it's stored in your heart. It's not stored in a closet or an attic. So take
true.
that home. There's like create experiences. That's what makes you, that's life, create that experience.
Definitely. Yes. And I think it's important for us to know that our nation wasn't birthed from Jamestown. It was actually birthed from Roanoke, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love because we all came from it. And again, even if we don't know it, we're here for a reason. So I think about that often because it's like I was blessed to have four great four grandparents for a big portion of my life. They lived to about age 89, and then I had one great grandfather that was alive while I was still alive. But after that, like great grandparent, you don't even sometimes we don't even know their name. But if they didn't exist, if they didn't fight through the challenges, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So their history is our present. So it's cool when you can tap into that and see how hard people used to have to fight just to have a day. So I love that. I'm putting it on my bucket list.
Uh, all right. That's perfect. So please tell the audience how they can find Trinity Life Center on the web or on social media.
Yeah, so our Instagram handle, we're incredibly active on Instagram and Facebook, and we're not talking about ourselves. We're sharing the wins, we're sharing the resources, we're just sharing the amazing stories. We have a front row seat here. Our Instagram handle is at TLC_chiropractor. And then on Facebook, you can find us at Trinity Life Center. And then you'll see our face, you'll see Melody's face, you'll probably see this guy's face because he's famous around here too. So, like I said, we like to showcase those wins, but reach out to us personally if you have questions. If you're looking for resources, not just for a backache, neck ache, or headache. The brain and nervous system controls anything. So anxiety, ADHD, autism, my brain won't turn off at night. I can't rest like I used to. My digestion's off. My kids struggling with ear infections. Reach out to us through social media. Our telephone number is 919-267-9388. We're here for you always. And I'm happy to at the very least, have that conversation to find out if we're a good fit for you.
Thank you for that. Now let's get on to the fun questions.
Oh, I was already having fun. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned this somewhat. I love history, especially American history, just before we became a country, like Roanoke in the 1500s, 1492. What do you think is the most interesting period of history?
In United States history?
I mean, just history in general.
Oh my goodness. How long do you have to talk? I think you can go through so many different moments throughout history and find something that's just miraculous and amazing. And honestly, it's so tough to pin it down. I was fascinated with American history from the beginning. And it's just inception of like, hey, I want my own freedom. I want to be left alone. I want to be able to worship as I want to worship and transfer that. And obviously, Americans founding had some challenges and struggles, but find me one family that doesn't have some family issues. So it's like for them to fight that hard, to hop on a boat, to come over here, to risk absolutely everything, to start on a premise, on a hypothesis that God had a bigger plan if we just work towards, our own interest and working on our community rather than serving a king. So, I mean, obviously American history, but just to get on a personal level, like I don't have to go back that far to just be fascinated with history. I'll take my grandmother, for example, who was born in the early 1900s. And they used to say that they didn't know that there was a Great Depression because they had no money to lose. They were that dirt poor. And
Wow.
my on a farm, they lived by growing their own food. And when the Great Depression came through, a lot of people lost their money. They didn't. They didn't have any money. So they were helping families survive one meal at a time coming through the farm. But my grandmother's childhood was not easy. She went through the Great Depression. Unfortunately, sadly, tragically, I can't even fathom this. She saw her little brother get struck by lightning and killed. So I mean, she had the emotional trauma of that experience. An alcoholic father, a mother who passed away in her teens years. And again, she was able to luckily get out of that horrible experience at age 18 and marry my amazing grandfather that they were married for 72 years. My
Wow.
grandpa jobs so that my dad could be the first person to go to college in our family, and I'm the first doctor in the family. She fought for every moment of her life, and during World War II, her job, she actually used to mop asbestos into the hull of battleships. And if you know anything about asbestos, you don't want to be anywhere near that without a hazmat suit. They didn't know it at the time, but it wrecked her lungs. So she had the lungs of somebody that smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day, even though she never touched a cigarette or alcohol. So
Wow.
again, point in saying all of that is she had every reason to be bitter, every reason to be mad, every reason to just quit at any point in her life. Like, you picked the worst week of my life, it would have probably been the best of hers, you know? So, but again, if you met my grandmother, you would remember because she was the picture of grace, forgiveness, enthusiasm. Anybody that came into her presence felt loved. So again, that's in my history. And whenever I'm having a tough day, I'm like, you know what grandma would say about this? You know, it's she wouldn't say just get over it. She'd meet you with love and grace and say, hey, life's tough, kid. It's time to move forward. And I think in American history, or like, I mean, if you go back 1,000 years, our ancestors have been fighting for us to get to this moment where we're sitting in abject luxury today. Like, if you think about it, just on this phone, I can click a button and a meal will come. I can click a button and they'll fix the AC. I can click, I mean, anything on Amazon, I can have it at my fingertips. And that's a blessing, but it's also a curse. We've
Yeah.
become on technology that we forgot about relationships. We forgot about forgiveness. We forgot about, the things that our ancestors went through to get to this amazing place. So I know that's probably not the historical answer you wanted. I want to know all about yours, but no, to me, it's all beautiful. It's all hard. It's all tragic. It's all perfect. It's all life. And what we do at our practice is we help you get through life a little bit easier, a lot of it easier, with a brain and nervous system that deals with those challenges. But if you had to make me pick one thing, I'd say my grandma's history.
Uh, wow, that's very inspirational. What book has the most significant impact on you?
Recently, I've read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and Jordan Peterson is incredibly popular right now. And there's two feelings towards Jordan Peterson: you absolutely love him, or you absolutely hate him. And he's I don't know, he's gotten popularity on some political hot topics, but at the end of the day, he's really big on personal responsibility, on making the absolute best of your life, understanding full well that, my goodness, we all at least go through one horrible event in our life, if not some major challenges every day. But a lot of people give up, and that's not an alternative. So he basically wrote out these 12 rules for life. And I'm actually reading a second book called 12 More Rules. It's called Beyond Order. But no, I strongly recommend it. And my thing with like, if you have somebody that's controversial or you disagree with, it's okay to read their books. It's okay to sit and have conversations. Some of my absolute closest friends on the planet could not be more opposite on the political spectrum. And I love and appreciate that. The
Yeah.
last on the planet is everyone to be like me. That'd be chaotic. I mean, I'm weird. So it's like, it's beautiful. The diversity is beautiful. And we learn to accept each other as like, hey, we're all children of God. We have different opinions. Now, there are sometimes you got to put some lines in the sand and die on certain hills, but it's okay to have these conversations. It's okay to read books you disagree with. But that's my favorite book recently.
That is really cool. I did not know about that. So when people find out that I'm a public speaker, they always ask if I get nervous. When someone finds out, uh, if someone finds out what you do, what questions do they always ask you?
Um, when they find out not just that I'm a chiropractor, but that I'm a pediatric chiropractor, that I adjust newborns, why are you adjusting babies? That's a question we get a lot. And a child and a baby has a brain and nervous system too. It's the most fundamental, important organ of the body. It regulates every aspect of your existence. But the reason we're seeing babies is, unfortunately, a lot of birth interventions, birth trauma, the whole birthing process. And first and foremost, let me say, I have family that is OBGYNs. Thank God for the interventions that they do. But it's almost as if pregnancy is treated as a pathology. when you're not losing your life, you're giving life. But they do a lot of interventions, and a lot of these babies have to come out, even for good reasons. Sometimes they're pulled, twist, and tug. But what they're pulling on is a brain and nervous system, and a brainstem specifically. The brainstem is ground zero for fight or flight, the stress response.
Yeah.
And a baby whose nervous system is overwhelmed in stress response, it affects their gut. So colic, reflux, constipation. It affects their immune system. So ear infections, runny noses. It affects their emotions, anxiety. It affects their focus, energy, and hyperactivity, ADHD, autism. So that's why we're serving kids. It's not just a tab on our computer, like on our website. It's like the foundation of our practice, because the earlier we get to start with these challenges. But I get that question all the time, like, why are you adjusting babies? And the question I love to answer is, why not? We all have a brain and nervous system. The better that works, the better life works.
True. What is the best thing you got going in your life at the moment?
First and foremost, foundational, my faith in God and my family. Like that's the house that I build. That's the foundation I build a house on. If anything's ever compromised there, something's wrong on the outside. So that's my thing. And honestly, having a career and a job that I absolutely love to come to, having a team that's fun to hang around, Melody, of course, it's like having to be able to go to that. I've never worked a day in the last 12 years. I get to hang out at Trinity Life Center. I get to hang out with the Matthew Schwabs. I get to hang out with the Melodies. I get to go home to a farm and an amazing wife who adores me. I have 5 boys that literally run out of the house when I get home. And it's not because I'm amazing. It's just we've created an amazing relationship that I love pouring into. And I like to think that I had a realization. It seems so silly to even say this, but there were some things in my health late last year that weren't ideal. I wasn't in bad shape, but I made some changes. But I came through the realization when I was doing one of my nature walks that health isn't complicated. We are. Health is not complicated. We are. There's just a handful of things you need to do on a consistent basis to radically change your health, your energy, your emotions, your spiritual life, your marriage. If we just do those consistently enough, it's not complicated. But we complicate it by adding more stuff, spending too much time on our phone, drinking too much Starbucks, eating food that we shouldn't eat, staying with spiritually bankrupt people that emotionally drain us. Like that's the complicated part. But when you have a life that is just energizing, that's renewing, that's spiritually and foundationally sound, it's just, I love the challenges when they come along, because I know I have that firm foundation and all those beautiful things.
That's really fascinating. So I could talk about Down syndrome all day. What topic could you talk about in 20 minutes?
Whew. Like obviously the chiropractic thing is cool, and there's the educational component, but that's not what fires me up. Obviously, I love talking about chiropractic. Don't get me wrong, but to me, I'm on a personal mission now. I want to personally solve the issue of regret in people's lives, because I'm sad and I'm tired of hearing it and seeing it. So many people regret where they're at in their marriage. They regret where they're at in their body. They regret that they didn't go after that dream job. They didn't regret that they started that business. They regret that they didn't stand up and have a voice like you have a voice. The easiest thing you could do right now, Matthew, is be quiet. And that's not a good thing. We need your voice.
Yeah.
I always say public speaking can make you nervous, but to me, it's like, if I don't feel that edge public speaking, that means it doesn't matter to me. And the world is full of people that just sludge their way through a day with stuff that doesn't matter. They're emotionally, physically, and spiritually numb to so many things. It's like, how do we solve the issue of regret? By addressing that topic that health is not complicated, but we are. What am I doing to complicate my life? And how can I reset and reestablish back to nature, back to God, back to my family, and pour into that, so that when I am at the end of this journey on this side of heaven, I'm like, heck yeah, that was fun. I stood up, I spoke. People know my voice. People heard my message. They might have disagreed with it, but they heard it. They had to make a decision on whether they agreed with that. And that's where I commend you for standing up. Because just like my grandmother, you and I and so many people have every reason just to Netflix and chill the rest of our life, just to sedate with Starbucks or alcohol or whatever it is, to just unplug. But God has called us to plug in. And there's so much more energy. There's so much more purpose. There's so much more soulful, lives lived when we plug into that purpose and lean into it and climb that mountain. Everybody wants the mountaintop, but nobody wants the mountain. So I'm all about climbing the mountain with people like you and just say, how do we equip each other, inspire each other along the journey so that we can get to that summit experience and not regret that we stayed at the bottom. So solving the issue of regret, that's what I want to do with my life.
That is really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I definitely do agree with you.
Yeah. And
Yeah, because I think we should live our own lives the way we want to. And with my business, Matthew Schwab Speaks, I have about one local body walk where I'm speaking at for Coastal Buzz Down Syndrome organization in October. And about 2 weeks ago, my dad and I went to Pennsylvania. And I spoke at State College.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love that you're leaning into that and leaning into your purpose, because my goodness, like we're here for a reason. We're either created for a purpose or we're not. And I fully believe the experience that we were created for a purpose. So I'm going to figure that out and sprint in that direction till I can't run anymore.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong in unplugging, but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, but you just gotta figure out when to plug in and when to plug out and how far for the plug out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Jason, for being on this episode of Matthew Schwab Listens.
It's been an honor, my man. I can't wait to see you at your next adjustment.
Thanks. And to you, audience, stay tuned for the next episode of Matthew Schwab Listens. And stay tuned for the next one